The following is an exclusive presentation of WI Garden Media. This is Time by the Tent podcast with your host, Joey and Holly Baird. Coming up on the program, we're going to go over the topic of not all campsites are the same, as well as 5 or 6 unique things you should bring camping that you're not thinking about. As well as our guest this week is from a tiny cabin life on YouTube. Jack will be with us talking about his adventures in that tiny cabin. Yeah, show is full, so why don't you join us? Welcome to Time by the Tent podcast. I'm your host, Joey Baird, and across from me is my camping partner, best friend, wife.
Holly Baird. I don't know why. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Well, that was interesting.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us to talk camping.
Do you want to just do this all over again?
No.
Oh, okay.
Let's just keep it authentic.
Keep it authentic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for this podcast is for camping on public and private land, hiking outdoors, land management, land ownership, and more. This is our first episode. We'll have 18 of these wonderful gems for the next over the next 8 months. First, every other Thursday. You can find all of our podcasts at our parent website, which is the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. You can find it under the Camping Podcast tab. Or if you'd like to see our videos from YouTube channel Time by the Tent, you can go to YouTube and search that term. Or you can go to the parent website there, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, and click on the Camping tab at the top of the page. You can get a hold of us if you'd like to send us an email. You can send it to twvgshow@gmail.com, or we do have a hotline, and that is 1-800-927-SHOW, S-H-O-W, 1-800-927-7469. So, Holly, let's get into the program here. We thank you for taking time and downloading the program, viewing it on social media, however you're capturing the content. Thank you very much. Now, many of us are, well, if we're listening to this, we probably have camped in some form or fashion, either on public or private land. And for those who are camping on public land or state
like
forest, state parks,
even national parks, and then there's sometimes county parks or
municipalities, yeah, that type of thing.
Things like that.
Not all of these are the same, and not all the time that you see what you see on the internet is true, because you can frame a shot to make it look real nice when you've got junk outside of that framework.
Absolutely.
And now this show is based out of Wisconsin, so your mileage may vary based on where you're camping at. And with our state campsites, majority of them, you have privacy. There's shrubbery, there's trees, there's foliage that's a barrier between you and the next campsite. Now, it may be only 3 foot or 2 foot, but it's not a parking lot with fire pits and picnic tables, as we see, if you're familiar with, most of you are, Steve Wallace, Camping with Steve. He camps up in Canada, and it's just a parking lot, basically, of campsites, and it's concrete and fire pits, and it's just an open field. And we've watched other people in Iowa and Nebraska, same thing.
It's kind of mind-blowing
what
to me.
Privacy is, or what fun is that?
Right, because I camped from a young age in Wisconsin, and I kind of understand why people come here to camp, because we have a lot of trees, a lot of foliage, a lot of just really beautiful natural resource spaces. And if you like the big open prairies to camp, then that's perfect for you. But for me, I need to have I need to be in the trees.
Well, at least out of visual. Now, you hear the neighbors, you hear the kids, you hear the party, the happy birthday, all of that.
We really did hear a birthday party. Yeah,
I kind of wanted to see what kind of cake it was. And now we tent camp. We have currently a 10 by 12 Ozark Trail wall tent. It's a little more work to put up, but the advantage is you can walk in. We've got a queen size pop-up mattress cot, and you have room. It's like a small cabin. You can walk in, you can do things. You're not cramped. If it's raining, you can bring the food in and sit around the table. It's we've got videos on what we bring, which is probably way too much, but it's worth it.
The first time Joey and I went camping together, my mom kept telling us to bring a tarp because it was going to rain. And she apparently even told my sister this, that she was concerned because we weren't going to bring a tarp. And
because we're not allowed to, we've never been in rain before, apparently.
We're going to melt.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, but I knew that our tent was quite large, and I figured if it was raining, we would just go
in the tent.
Right. And so, lo and behold, it rained, and we were in the middle of eating dinner, and we just drug our chairs on our little table in there. And
which we'll get to in segment 2 on what things.
But we didn't need that tarp. But that's okay. She was trying to be
well, camping, I grew up on a farm, and we never camped. I turned a solid structure or a building into a cabin, and that's where kind of deer camp was for all my friends and the guys, and that's what we did. But you camped, and from you're camping as a young person to now, or when we camp, it seems to be very, very different. Night and day different.
Yeah. What do you mean?
The experience, the equipment, the fun of camping now compared to camping when you were young with your siblings. And
well, first of all, I didn't have to plan much. I just packed up my clothes or whatever. And
your stories just don't seem fun. The stories.
What are you talking about?
Just the equipment came substantially better. All
yeah, for sure. Like we
you weren't you didn't have a wall tent.
No wall tent.
You probably had a tent just barely big enough for you to squeeze in.
Well, yeah, it was like I slept in a tent with my older sister, so it was probably what they say is like a 4-person tent.
Or 4-person if you really like each other, 1 or 2 reasonably.
Right. So yes, it wasn't huge.
4-person in an emergency,
and you couldn't really stand up.
Yeah, you crawled in, crawled out, like these traditional little dome tents.
Right, and I liked it. It was fine, and we usually slept on the ground, or sometimes I think at some point we finally got an air mattress, but it was definitely a lot different. Now, some people consider what you and I do, quote unquote, glamping.
Glamping, yeah.
Which I wouldn't, and also I think realistically, Joey and I are both 40, and I have no interest in sleeping on the ground, and I'm not going to lie about that. So I'm okay with if people want to call us glamping. I've paid my dues. I've slept on the ground. I'm okay sleeping on a cot.
Well, yeah. And I mean, when we go, we take a substantial lot of stuff. I know there's some people that try to rough and tough it, but when we bought the first round, I guess is what you call what we bought, the first round of sleeping bags. And because if we advance our camping equipment, we're going to take it to the utmost level and get the top of the top. But we didn't skimp on pretty much anything that we've got.
No, we decided to...
We could have got the El Cheapo chairs, but we got the stuff that was going to last.
We looked at it as an investment.
Right.
And I think that if you can do that, it's smart. And if you are... But perhaps maybe you aren't sure if you're going to like a certain piece of equipment. It might be okay to get the cheaper one if you're like, I might not use this a lot.
Right. And we've got a number of product reviews, not sponsored at all, on our YouTube channel, Time by the Tent. And we will tell you, I think the only, most of the stuff that we've got, we never did a review on the air mattress on the cot, but everything else has been top notch.
Right. Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
So
anyway, back to the campsite areas.
There's hip camps too. Well, let's talk about that.
So hip camp is kind of like an Airbnb / Vrbo, which is vacation rentals by owner, but it's for land to camp at. And I think sometimes you can rent cabins and tents and yurts and whatnot. But hip camp, you find a location and then you go camp there. And so Joey and I have experienced this where we just looked for land, and some of them have bathrooms, porta potties,
right?
And some of them have like teeny little amenities. They do take care of the trash.
Yeah.
Some of them will have the option to upgrade to purchase firewood, but then some of them say, just pull whatever wood you want out of the woods.
Some are literally in the backyard next to a open field and a little covey of woods. Others is a private land removed from the residence, that you drive up and there's a parking spot and then there's trails to go to those particular campsites, and it's all marked and registered and all this stuff. So never have had a bad experience with a hip camp. However, a hip camp is about 2.5 times more expensive than a state park.
And I'm sure part of it is they're probably paying fees to hip camp.
But you're paying for a luxury of nobody's around.
Well, that's the thing, is that the last one that Joey and I went to in October on our last camping trip for the year, it was beautiful. We didn't see a soul for like 3 days.
Right.
And it was a walk-in site. We did have to go down this little hill.
It was about half-mile walk-in.
Yeah. It was a walk-in site, but it was just absolutely. If you like solitude when you're camping, I would recommend checking out Hip Camp.
Hip Camp, or buy your own piece of property.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it was nice, and it was a little bit harder because you knew that you had, if you did need to, like, we bring our own toilet, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. But other than that, if you need to shower or something like that, that's not an option. It's not like a state park where you can drive to a shower building. Like, you are definitely in that area. You're not going to have a convenient place to wash yourself, and you kind of just have to rough it like that.
Right.
But it's a lot of fun, especially if you do want the solitude.
And hip camps do not, I don't think that I've seen one, and of course I've not looked, do not have electricity amenities. State parks do. That's more of an expense than the what do they call it? Regular camps. I forget. There's a word there. Prehistoric, not prehistoric.
So going on that, if you have children
yes.
and you're looking to camp and you want things that are of comfort for your children, or activities, recreation areas, things like that, state parks offer that. A lot of them have playgrounds, beaches, trails, like myriad of trails, shorter trails. There's one state park not too far from us that has this astronomy trail, and you walk along and it tells you about astronomy, and there's nature, fill out the card things, and a lot of great stuff. And then they also...
But if you've never camped in a state park, there's a noise level. Now, it's supposed to be quiet after 11 o'clock. But
you can complain to the camp host. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that
it fixes it.
It fixes it, but you do have that right.
People do activities, drink, and excitement, and party, and that type of thing.
Right, absolutely. And that's another thing to keep in mind, is you are not too far from the next campsite, and people can be loud.
Now, this is in Wisconsin, where, as we talked earlier, there is a perimeter or a barrier or a barricade between with trees and shrubs and stuff in 99% of the campsites and parks that we've been in. This is not the case in other places. So in other places, you can just look down and see the 17 other people camping because it's just a parking lot and or an open field. Here you can hear them, but you can't necessarily see them when it comes to camping. But there is a noise factor.
Right. So I think the biggest thing is to keep what?
And here in Wisconsin, you can, you pay online, you register online to pick a campsite. It's not like some of these places where you drive up, fill a card out, and you go find a site.
Well, you used to be able to do that.
And with Wisconsin websites, typically they'll give you 1, 2, or 3 images of that particular site and an aerial map. So you can kind of put your add things up and go, well, this site seems to be farther away from everybody else, so this might be the better option.
Also, like in Wisconsin, if you use Facebook, there is a state park group, and you can say, like, hey, especially larger state parks, that this wing of the state park or whatever, do you recommend any sites that are more wooded or more open?
And people will tell you, no, don't go here or don't do that. Yeah.
And then it's also helpful to know sometimes, because if you perhaps are looking for something where you can walk to close by trails and whatever, then you can look at the map, but it might not give you the best idea, but you can ask other people.
So, not just be aware that not everything you see on the internet or on Department of Natural Resources sites is as it may seem, because everything is slightly different. The best way to know what you're getting into is, like you say, go on a Facebook group or simply post on your Facebook group or your Facebook page and go, here's what I'm wanting to do. Does anybody have any bad or good experiences about going to this place? And they will tell you, because that's what the internet does.
Absolutely.
So when we come back, hang out with us. When we come back, Holly and I are going to go over a handful of unique items that we take camping that you may not have ever thought of and you might want to consider. You're listening to the podcast Time by the Tent.
Are you bugged by bugs? You need naturally green products. No More Bugs. Environmentally friendly. Made in the USA. No More Bugs is a cedar blend that repels and eliminates mosquitoes, ticks, fleas, roaches, ants, and more. No More Bugs. It is safe for you, your pets, and plants. Visit nomorebugs.net. Free shipping for orders over $50. Use code FREESHIP, the number 4, me. Free ship for me.
Grip 6.
Grip 6. Yeah,
we're happy that they are a sponsor of the program.
Yeah, and they are they produce American-made products. They have everything from wool socks, wallets, belts, and that they are made in-house, designed and manufactured. Most of them come with a lifetime guarantee. They are long life cycle products, and you can use code RADIO15 to save 15% off your order at Grip 6. So Grip the number 6.com.
Made in America, made in Utah, with American wool, and by American people. If you are in the upper Midwest, you can go to your friendly Fleet Farm, where you can find everything you need, from tires to tree stands, drills, and dog food to toys and tools. They've got it all. You can save even more at Fleet Farm when you join their Fleet Farm Rewards loyalty program. You'll get exclusive offers, and it's free to sign up. Get everything you need at a low Fleet Farm price. Shop in-store or online today at Fleet Farm, 48-plus stores in the upper Midwest. Welcome back to the podcast, Time by the Tent. I'm Joey Baird.
I'm Holly Baird.
And we're going to go over some unique items in which we take camping that you may not think of or have thought of, or you might think we're crazy for doing it. So you wouldn't be the first that would identify that as us being crazy for doing this, but it makes a big difference on taking these things or not taking these things. So let's start off with comfy chairs, Holly. Now, you can go and buy, the pop-up, fold-out chairs and the little sleeves that tuck tightly, nicely in the back seat or the trunk, and they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. But if you're going to camp and you want to relax, big comfy chairs might be your answer.
Right, and we're not talking about, like your recliner.
We can say the name. We get them from Cabela's.
Yeah, we get them from Cabela's, and we get the foldable ones, and then the other one we have is a rocking style type chair. And they are durable. The one that, I think both of them are technically for the big and tall outdoorsman or something. But they're very durable, they're very sturdy, they're roomy, they're comfortable. I can't believe they fit in the back seat of my car, but they're not something that you probably want to drag to the kids' soccer game. But it's definitely something that if you want to relax in your on your campsite, I would highly recommend that. And there's different varieties now, and sometimes you can find them at big box stores. Definitely just like try it out. I know those little foldable, put it in the sleeve chairs. If I sit in them for too long, they hurt my lower back. Uh-huh. So I don't mind them, again, for like my nephew's soccer game or something, but for camping, I want a little bit of comfort. There is some, you got to figure out how to finesse them in the backseat of the car or the SUV, but they're worth it. They're worth that extra work to get them to the campsite. Or, in the instance of you have your own property and you have your own cabin or your tent or whatever, they would stay there long term. But it's certainly worth the effort. Now, these that we purchased, $85, $90 a piece. You can get, the chairs you're talking about, the fold-away party soccer chairs, whatever, probably, $35, $40. So we go with the bigger ones and the more comfy ones. Now, something that you might think that,
we're not going to do that because it's kind of gross. It's bring your own toilet.
BYOT. Yeah, so bring your own toilet.
Go ahead.
We have a portable toilet, and what you do is you put some water into the bottom of it, and then you do the thing, and then it rinses it, and then there's a separate reservoir holding tank for your waste.
Yeah, we got it at Fleet Farm. I think it was $109 or whatever. And your mom and you both thought that was such a silly, goofy thing to get. And we went to the first state camp park, and within 3 minutes, I got to go to the bathroom.
Well, we had an hour some drive.
Right.
And I drink a lot of water.
And it's not just we set it out there for the world to see us do our business. We have
like a pop-up
tent that goes over it, so it's like a portable outhouse, and then we take and dispose it in the proper manner once the camping time is over. But it does not smell. It does not leak. It is a phenomenal tool that makes the camping experience so much better. And you have told stories about the vault toilets.
Yeah, the pit toilets. And I much love to the pit toilets, and that's what a lot of is what near is these trails,
state parks.
Yeah. And I camp year round, and those vault toilets are a terrible thing in the winter because
you hike year round.
I mean, I hike year round. In the winter, you gotta take all your layers off, and then you sit on this cold toilet seat. It's not fun.
The number of phones that have fallen into those.
I'm careful about my phone. Yeah. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, they're not my favorite. And even I've gone on drives and stuff with friends or on trips, and we'll visit a state park, and then it's like, oh, you're going to use the bathroom, and it's always a vault toilet. There's never flush toilets. So, but that's okay. I'm okay with it. But I appreciate this portable toilet because it's not the pit toilet that I grew up with, which they never smell pleasant inside.
No, it's never, hey, come in, it smells like flowers. No, it smells like an elephant has fallen in there and died.
Yeah. It's just, you get used to it. But yeah,
I don't think you ever get used to that.
Okay, you try to. But the portable
you tolerate
it. But the portable toilets, and it's funny because we always called them pit toilets, and then all of a sudden now they're calling them vault toilets, which is, I don't know why make it sound pretty. But
and there's several different styles of these portable toilets that we use. And there's several different brands that make them, but we have not done a video on that yet. But it is a toilet that is well worth the effort to utilize for having to middle of the night go to the bathroom without having to kind of figure out where do I need to purchase the campsite so I'm closer to the facilities.
Well, right. And it's
if you have kids, this would be the thing to get.
Yeah, I would agree, because you have to, most of the time, even if you are close to the closest toilet,
it's a 30-minute trip.
Yeah, it's easily. And wear your shoes, get your flashlight. Okay, stay on the road. Oh, we gotta, maybe if you have a dog, we gotta bring the dog. And then all of a sudden, yeah, it's a 30-minute trip.
Tell us about your bathroom experiences at twvgshow@gmail.com. We'd love to hear them.
There is things that you can simplify by doing like a composting situation toilet, or like there's these toilet seats that go on top of buckets.
Yeah.
So you don't have to get this fancy flushable toilet. Do I like the fancy flushable toilet? Yes.
But with the toilet seat that goes on the bucket, that smell is there. With the toilet that we have, it is that second chamber that holds it. You cannot smell it at all. At all.
No. I mean, it probably helps that you're outside. But
even when we are in the car and we have to get it to the facility to clean it, there's no smell, there's no drip. In a bucket with a toilet seat on it, bad things can happen.
That's true. You'd have to keep that in mind for sure. But yeah, I know. I laughed when Joey said, let's get a toilet.
And she was like, I gotta go.
And I was going to go squat in the corner, remember? And you were like, I'll get the toilet out. Yeah. So I'm not above squatting in the corner, but I also enjoy the toilet.
Let's talk about portable tables. And we're talking about, there's a Coleman table. It's about $36. We've got a review on the YouTube channel. It folds up very small. There is a Cabela's Bass Pro table that kind of like a side table that folds up very, very small. It's got two places where you can put cups or glasses or cans in. Very portable. And that is when we were talking about with the wall tent that we camp in, when it's raining or inclement weather, we can bring that table in with the 2 nice chairs and create a dining experience inside the tent where you couldn't have such in a dome tent, or you'd have to go in the car or go somewhere else on the property to find a gazebo or something to get in and under during the weather being not pleasant. So the table from Cabela's, I think, was like $14. The Amazon Coleman table is $35, something like that, and well worth it. A total between the two, I think, probably like 8 or 9 pounds, and it makes all the difference. Somewhere to have things elevated where you can put, your food or things that you don't want to have fall on the ground, or if you're a videographer, you can put your camera gear and have it organized. So it makes a big difference when it comes to portable tables, and they can be any kind, but it would be something that you may want to consider as unique as they are, that they fold up to almost nothing now. So hatchet or a saw.
Yeah, you might think, okay, I'm going to a state park, I can get wood.
I'm going to pay $19 for a bundle of wood. Why do I need a saw or a hatchet? And I'm exaggerating, but I think we're up about here in Wisconsin, based on
$6 or $7.
Your high end is $7.50. Your low end, if you're really in the right place, about $6. And they really don't like if you go in the woods and cut stuff down and drag it in and burn it. That's a no-no.
Because it's a natural resource.
But if it's already dead.
I know.
So,
but then they bring it out and then they chop it up and they sell it.
Yeah. They tell. So a saw, what we're talking about, a saw, either a bow saw or a folding collapsible saw with that makes a big difference. Even just cutting small things, or if you've got limbs kind of or something has fallen, you need trim. A hatchet to cut down and make kindling with. Now, story about the hatchet, Holly. Just because it's $14 doesn't mean it's wonderful. Now, also, there's hatchets that are $250 online.
But it has a cute cover.
Yeah, it has a cute cover. Ours does, yeah. And I had to sharpen it, and I think it will work. We got it at Walmart when we got the tent. The tent was a much better purchase than the hatchet was. And if you're into having your own land and you're into, doing that type of making kindling and all that, the investment of a hatchet of $50 or $80 or $100 and some odd dollars is worth it, because you want something that's steel. You want something that's no more longer than your up to your elbow, because you don't want to try to make kindling with an axe, because you got a long handle. So you want a very short handle, about 22 inches, about 2.5 to 3 pounds is really the size of the hatchet you want to give nice control, and you want something that's solid steel and has a really good sharp edge, so you can make precise cuts for your kindling, and it's worth it. It's worth the investment. Now, you may think a kettle is something that, I bring a kettle. People bring kettles, but I don't think everybody brings kettles.
No, people will often bring those percolator things for their coffee. But they don't bring kettles. So
what is the advantage to a kettle? I mean, I guess the percolator, you could take the percolating internal parts out of it and turn it into a kettle and boil water that way.
Yeah, you can do that. That's for sure. I don't know. I like it because I make French press coffee, so it reminds me of home.
Which you've got to have boiling water. Yeah. You can't just make the water in the French press canister. You have to put it in there.
Right. So you do have to have a way to boil some water, and then you've had tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the advantage. Or if you need something that you need hot water for,
don't get a cast iron. From what we've found, don't get a cast iron kettle, because it will rust on the inside. Yeah. Apparently, this is only for like a cast iron would be going on a stove to keep humidity going in the cabin or the tent, but. We were wanting a cast iron one, but I don't know what we got.
I think it's is it galvanized?
It's maybe galvanized, yeah. Bring extra water.
Cute.
Yeah, bring extra water.
Yeah, extra water is good. I think you should bring more water than you think you need.
Because it's easy to pour it out rather than go find it.
Right. We have a 7-gallon?
I think it's an aquatainer, 6.5 or 7 gallon aquatainer. And most times we'll fill it about 4.5 gallons. And realistically, we use maybe half or a third of that on a 2-day trip.
Yeah.
But it's easier to utilize that than not. One thing I want to mention that is your own cooking grate.
Oh yeah, I didn't. So I also thought that Joey was ridiculous for wanting his own cooking grate because he thought that. I was like, it's
Apparently
fine.
I'm not qualified here.
I was like, there's a grate on the fire pit, and
It looks like a monster truck has ran over some of these.
The last time I went camping, I probably was like 20 something, and I was maybe
not paying attention,
partaking in
how bad the
things.
grate was.
But yeah, so I was like, it's fine. And Joey's like, no, we'll get our own. And so we did, and I'm glad because we can cook things directly on it. Not that you can't at the state park, but they sometimes a little rusty and questionable. So
I think our grate is maybe 16 by 12, and it's got a center pin or a center rod that goes in the ground, and then it pivots on that. And you can have control over it, and we cook directly on the grate, hamburgers, pork chops, whatever. If you're using the state park grate, in most instances that we've seen on video and that we've experienced, you would have to put some aluminum foil down or something. With ours, you can get that flame kissed, and we know it's safe because we know what we've cooked on that grate.
Right, and I like that, and it's also nice because you can kind of control where it goes, type of thing. Yeah.
With those big ones at the state park or state, you can up, down, but it's not. You don't have the control.
One thing I was going to say is the portable battery. What do you call that? The power. Oh,
the Jackery.
Yeah.
Power station, portable power station. We have a 550 Jackery. And you use a CPAP machine, and this was the only way in which we figured out would work best. And we don't plug the CPAP machine into the outlet. We run it off of the cigarette lighter through a converter to reduce significantly the output of power, so we can run multiple nights on that Jackery. And we've got a solar panel, but also it takes 12, 14 hours in some instances to charge that Jackery back up from dead. So you can explain the CPAP a little bit more than I do because you reset it. You set it in a different way.
It just has a reset button.
No, I mean the amount of moisture and.
Oh yeah. So I use my humidifier on my CPAP. Some people don't, but I do. So if I and then I keep it most of the time year round at the same humidity level, but when we camp, I do lower it a bit. Sometimes I turn it to 0. Like when we were fall camping, there was enough moisture in the air overall that I could turn it down very low or off. But yeah, there's that option to help save energy or reduce energy is to not use the humidifier. And we've got, I would say an average size. There's many different other brands out there, up to 2,000 watt hour, power, and you're looking at thousands of dollars. But on an off-grid situation or a long term, it's well worth the investment with the solar panels and all that goes with it. So tell us what you take that you may find unusual but have benefited you in your camping experience at twvgshow@gmail.com. Do not go anywhere. Hang out with us. Jack from YouTube channel A Tiny Cabin Life will be with us. You are listening to Time by the Tent podcast. Wood River Chimes creates a symphony in any space, chimes that are inspiring by nature and designed to make your natural world even more inspiring. Music speaks to everyone, individually handcrafted in Virginia for over 35 years and hand-tuned for exceptionally precision and lasting beauty. Because in life, the winds of change are always moving. But no matter where they carry you, Wind River Chimes will always be inspiring. With a large selection of customizable options, you will find sound that will soothe you. Visit woodriverchimes.com to shop and find out more. We're brought to you today by our sponsor, Walton's. We know that you care about where your food comes from, or maybe because you enjoy the outdoors, you like to hunt, fish, etc., trap. At Walton's Inc., you can get all of the equipment, seasoning, and supplies to make sausage, jerky, and any other meat product your way to your high standards. Do you want to make snack sticks that people will actually like? Walton's created meatgistics.com, an informational site to help you make the best finished product. Walton's even has a full line of their own meat grinders, mixers, sausage stuffers to help you go from animal to edible. Walton's, everything but the meat. That's waltonsinc.com.
Use coupon code GROW50 to save 10% on your orders over $50 at waltonsinc.com. Are you trying to keep newly planted trees on your property watered and not sure if you're overwatering or underwatering, or just in a location in which there's too far to maintain them, but you want them to be established? Tree diaper technology can significantly help you with that. No hoses, pipes needed. It recharges when it rains. You can find more out at treediaper.com and use coupon code GARDEN15 to save 15% off your order at treediaper.com.
Farm and garden in the ultimate comfort. Farmer's Defense has lightweight and durable sleeves made to protect you against the elements while farming or working in the garden. Farmer's sleeves offer unparalleled protection of arms and skin for any farmer, gardener, or outdoor worker. Say goodbye to irritated skin and sunburns in the garden. Their sleeves offer cooling, comfort, and protection against the elements outdoors. An alternative to thick clothing, Farmer's Defense is made of wicky material with UBF protection factor of 50, plus to protect you from allergens and scratches. To find all of their great products, visit farmersdefense.com.
Welcome back to Time by the Tent podcast. I'm Joey Baird. I'm Joey Baird.
Oh, I'm Holly Baird.
Moments away, Jack from A Tiny Cabin Life will be with us. We thank you for downloading the program today. So let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week, Holly.
Jack is an enthusiastic lover of being in the great outdoors. He is a naturalist, husband, soon-to-be father, and TV host with a passion for nature, camping, cabins, and simple living. He has a YouTube channel where he talks all about his tiny cabin, family, and so much more. His YouTube channel is Tiny Cabin Life. Welcome to the program, Jack.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, we thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule, and soon to be more. Congratulations on soon the birth of your first child. On that, we're glad we got you on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're so excited. We're definitely getting down to the wire here. We've only got a couple more weeks, give or take, until our daughter's born. But so glad to be on here, and thank you guys so much.
So how did you end up being so into the outdoors? Was it something you grew up with, or was there a life-changing experience that allowed you to find this blessing of the outdoors that regenerates all of us so well?
Yeah, actually a little bit of both. So, I live and I've grown up kind of in the metro area of the Twin Cities. And with that, my parents would do their best to take us into nature whenever they could. Our family has a family cabin that's been with us for generations and generations, and that's up in the northern part of Minnesota. And so my parents would bring us up there as often as they could. And then also, I just grew up running around in our woods. My parents have a few acres of woods, and, just really kind of just fell in love with being outside. But later on, when I'm going to say I was probably around 7, 8 years old, our family took our first road trip, first of many later, out to Jackson Hole and Yellowstone in the Grand Teton area. And when I got out there and I saw mountains for the first time, that is what really sparked this, just like, just this love of being in the outdoors and sort of pushing my limits and my boundaries, and really just sort of soaking up just how incredible these wild places are. And so that's why I say it's a little bit of both. At first, it was just kind of being out in the woods and stuff like that. But when I saw mountains, I knew that I wanted to do more and really spend my life in these places. And it led me to, going to college out at the University of Montana, so I was out in the mountains there, and then I've spent my time in nature ever since in one way or another.
That's fantastic. So you were the co-host of a TV show, Rock the Park. What is something that was a good surprise to you that occurred during this time from the show, and something that was just a huge disappointment?
Yeah, see, that's such a great question, because I think a lot of times the questions we get are like, what's your favorite national park and stuff like that. And those are great, but I love kind of giving the good and the bad. I think the biggest surprise for me was just how marvelous the national park system is. I fell in love with Yellowstone and kind of Tetons and just the Mountain West, Rocky Mountain area. But it wasn't until we really started going to these other places that I saw that the national parks as a whole were really something special, and that label really carries a lot of weight. And so once we went to places like Zion or places up in Alaska or even down south, we went to a place called Dry Tortugas National Park, which is these islands, way off of Key West down in Florida. And, we're going scuba diving and all of these different activities out there and just seeing how really diverse and incredible our country is and how these different landscapes are so unique. That was probably the biggest surprise to me. I just really fell in love even more with these places. As far as a disappointment, I think what I learned from doing Rock the Park is how intentional you have to be when you're doing something that you love for a living, even something like exploring national parks. I don't know if I would call it a disappointment, but I think I learned after a couple of years that it can become work, even going out hiking for your job and stuff like that. And so you really have to be careful with how you're prioritizing things in your life to make sure that you're keeping your priorities in order and trying to keep these things fun and not losing that spark or that love of nature to the grind of work. And so that's why I say, I guess it's not really a disappointment, but that was a big realization for me because after about a year or two, I hit a point where I was just kind of like that magic and that spark had kind of gone away, and I had to recapture it on my own away from the cameras. And when I did that, it brought the wonder right back.
Yeah, we understand that. We started gardening for fun, and then we turned into a YouTube channel, and then it turned into a very large garden talk radio show, and that hobby became a business, and now we're looking for other avenues to get away from the hobby that became a business so we can find another hobby.
Yeah. Yep. Totally. And you guys know that. So it's like you'll be doing something, but you have to get it finished. And it might be something that you love, but when you have that pressure on you to like perform or to create something, it can be easy to get frustrated or to lose that spark. But if you guard that, and like you said, you find other hobbies or you find ways to kind of compartmentalize it, I think it's possible to keep the love of it alive. And
we've all had worse jobs than those jobs that the hobby turned into a profession.
Absolutely.
So probably the appeal to your YouTube channel is the tiny cabins. Why did you choose to build two tiny cabins, one on wheels and one in a small covey of woods? I believe it's part of your family's there locally where you're at. And then you have a large cabin up in northern. Why not just like a tent you pop up every weekend or whatever? What was the significance to the cabin life?
So, there's something about, I don't know. I think it's two-part. One, there's just something about being in a cabin. Like there's something that takes it beyond tent camping, where you just have this like sense of security and even maybe an illusion sometime of safety. When you're in a cabin in the wilderness, you feel like there's less that can touch you. But on the other side of that, I just, growing up, going to my family cabin up north, there were just so many memories, the smell of the wood even, and of coffee brewing inside the cabin. All these things just bring back all these memories. And so I don't know, I just wanted to recapture that love of cabins, and the tiny aspect of them was the only way that I could do it. And what's kind of funny, I'll make this short, but when I used to live in California. I moved back to Minnesota with my wife about 2 years ago. When I was in California, I wanted to find some way to have a cabin that I could take with me anywhere. And so I found a tent actually that sort of looked like a cabin, and I called it the portable cabin. I had to set it up every time I went, tear it down. All of it fit inside my walk-in closet in my apartment in Los Angeles. And there was something about it that just carried that cabin ambiance, and I loved it. And then I started to grow tired of the setup and the teardown. And so when we moved back here, I knew that it was time for me to build a cabin of my own. And I went tiny because I had never built anything before, and tiny was something that seemed doable to me. And so when I built that first tiny cabin, it was the A-frame that's on my parents' property. It turned out great, and it totally captured that I don't know, that ambiance, just what I was looking for with the cabin space.
It scratched that itch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you know what's been great about it is it's so close to home that I get to go spend tons of time there. I was actually worried when I moved away from California that I wasn't going to be able to spend as much time out in nature, because in California I was so used to being by the coast and then having the mountains and the desert and all this stuff. Well, because of this tiny cabin, which is just, in the woods, it's on some acreage, but it's close to home. I spend way more time in nature than I ever did regularly when I lived in California. And so it's been such a blessing in that way. So anyway, the tiny aspect came out of the necessity of just like what I could practically build. Well, then you fast forward about, 8-9 months. And we wanted to start traveling around again. And at the time, my wife, Riley, was working as a hairstylist, and she only got a certain amount of days off. And so we knew we were going to have to maximize that time. I didn't have the time to set up the elaborate, portable cabin if we were rolling into a campsite or something at, 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So I thought, you know what? Now I have the space to actually build and to stash a trailer away somewhere. So I was like, it is time to finally build a true portable cabin and build one on a trailer. And once again, it was a bite-size, project, something that I knew I could accomplish. And also my car, which is a Subaru Outback, can't tow as much as like a bigger truck. So it had to be tiny. And so once again, tiny was the only way to get it done. And since then, though, I have to say I have really come to love tiny spaces and finding ways to utilize space well and be able to, build things. It's just so much easier when you're building something smaller. So I know that was long-winded, but that's kind of the idea behind the whole cabin life thing and why we chose to go tiny.
And when we talk about tiny, we're talking 38 square feet is the size of this the footprint of this cabin on the trailer.
Even smaller.
Okay.
32. So it's a 4x8 trailer, which honestly seems almost impossible. It honestly is the size of a closet. Like if you really think about it.
Right.
I was looking at like this footprint. I remember I laid out like some parameters on the floor in our living room when I was like trying to visualize this, and I was thinking like, okay, can I lie down? Can we fit this here and that there? And it seemed really daunting. But by the time it was done, we found a way to have not only a bed that is able to, you pull it out or whatever. But when the bed is put away, we have like a little sectional couch where there's enough room for the two of us to have our own space on the couch. We have a little kitchenette that has a 1-burner stove or refrigerator. We have all these dishes that are able to be stored in there. We have, I call it the garage. You pull back one of the cushions, and you have our hammock there and our chairs and axe and hatchet and stuff like that. And so it's so fun. It was so fun to try to fit everything in there, and we did it, and it turned out really great.
And you talk about a sense of security in the cabin, or maybe a false sense. In a recent video, when it was bitterly cold, your power system used up, your diesel heater went out, you had carbon monoxide registering, and you decided, hey, it's safer for us to just go home than to fight this.
Yep. Yeah, that is a lesson that I learned from my time on Rock the Park. There were so many adventures that we had where we had to pull the plug, whether it be climbing a mountain or whatever. And you have to make the right call to be safe. And so, when it came to that video, anytime we do anything, honestly, nowadays, especially because I'm a family man and we're going to have our daughter with us too. I'm picking things that have multiple, backup plans. And so, with that instance, when things started to go awry, I knew A, that I had cell phone service there, but B, I also could just pack up and leave. At the end of the day, a lot of times people on YouTube in this kind of cabin camping space, we like to make it seem like it's really dire and all that. But like at the end of the day, we're out there just having fun, Right. And so if I have to pack up and go home, early on a trip, it's not the end of the world. And so we did that on that.
Maybe if you were 19, you would have toughed it out. But at your age, you've gotten wiser and you know what's smart and safe to do. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think there is a responsibility that we have as people who are demonstrating things for others to see, to try to make choices that will influence people in a positive way. And so, calling it quits was the right call in that scenario.
Absolutely. I know there's been times because I hike solo and I'll get to a trail that I've never hiked before and I'm like, not sure about this.
There's been times where you've went and you've came back injured.
Yeah.
You fell and you broke, banged up your ankles and all that.
Yeah. So sometimes it is good to make a conscious decision and not just push yourself. But yeah. If one would want to build a tiny cabin on a trailer like yours, what advice would you give, and what are some challenges you would want have to known before you went and attempted this?
Yeah, the main one is do not skimp on the trailer. So I thought all trailers were created equal. They are not. Oh my goodness. The trailer that I picked to build this thing on at first was, a solid trailer if you're hauling around, wood chips or something, but to build an entire cabin structure on top of and haul around the country, not so much. And so what ended up happening was after a few trips and on a long trip of ours, it actually started breaking down, and it almost put us in a situation where we would have lost the thing, if we hadn't have gotten lucky, honestly, and had someone nearby that was able to fix it. So what I ended up doing was we bought a trailer that was a little more heavy duty and able to withstand the wear and tear. And that's the biggest lesson that I learned. We're actually building a new travel cabin right now because with our daughter, we actually need a little more space. And the thing that has cost the most money in this build was the trailer. And I knew I didn't want to skimp this time. So I would say if you're thinking of building a travel trailer, a tiny house, tiny cabin, it's really worth it to make sure you're getting a quality trailer. That doesn't necessarily always mean a lot of money, but just make sure you're getting something that's gonna suit your project well.
Right, and when we're looking at land and going to probably purchase certain items that weren't, we could buy something for a fraction of the price, let's say a chainsaw, but we're going to buy the best that we know, spend the money, and know the brand that works well that my family has used for generations, and not be cheap and skimp on stuff when in a year and a half you're going to have to buy again.
Yeah, and you know what? To that point, we can even bring back the story of the heater breaking down and the carbon monoxide. I mean, that heater is an absolute – that thing is cheap. I had to make so many adjustments just to get that thing to work, and I learned my lesson. And so on this new build, I actually bought a direct vent, a vented propane heater from a brand that I know well and that has stood the test of time. And, it was a little more expensive, but it's going to be worth it for the safety and just for the reliability.
And we see, Holly and I watch probably more YouTube than we should be allowed to watch. And we see,
don't we all?
And we see different people and their personalities, and we find it, and it's encouraging when we see you and other YouTubers, especially in the camping world, bless their food and be thankful for what they have on camera, and they just don't omit that and go, oh, no, we're going to get flack because we prayed. We appreciate that, and we just wanted to let you know that from a viewer standpoint.
Yeah, that means a lot. Here's the way I look at it. First of all, like I said earlier, just from a basic level, we're out there having fun. There's a lot to be grateful for that we get to do this. But also, God's the foundation of my life. I might as well give thanks where thanks is due. And yeah, to me, that's very important just to throw out there, not to necessarily cram down anyone's throats, but to just let it be known because it's, made it all the difference in my life.
Absolutely. Now, you said you have, and we've seen your videos, your family's cabin in northern Minnesota. And when you go there, in some of these winter videos, it's negative 34 real temperature. How did you, first of all, for people who live in the north, that's cold. And coming from California and bringing your wife, and how do you transition or get accustomed to a cold like that? Or do you?
Yeah, luckily for me, being from here, I'm used to it. But also through my travels, I spent a lot of time in the cold, and I know what to expect, and I know what it takes to warm up. For her, she had never done that, and so thankfully, she's got a real great kind of attitude to want to try new things, and she loves the outdoors, and so she was willing to give that a shot. And I will say, 2 years later, she's still adjusting to the cold she's born and raised in California. So I think really what it is expecting to be uncomfortable and doing your research. If you don't know what you need to bring or what clothes and what layers to wear, and making sure that that you're prepared. And from there, if you're expecting to be cold and be prepared and learn something, then you're going to walk away with a great experience, a learning experience, maybe, but a good one. And that's what happened there. It wasn't easy. The video, one of the videos we did, I took her there, and it was very, very cold. It was a challenge for her and for me, but we got through it, and it's one of our fond memories. So. And then from a production side, for people who don't think like you and I, cold temperatures and batteries don't like each other. And then for everything you do, it's 2 or 3 times longer because you're setting the shot up. You're thinking 2 shots ahead, and then you're thinking, okay, if I do it this way, I'm going to edit it this way, and then your 5-minute job is now a 25-minute job. But in the end, for us, it's very rewarding because we see a creation that we have made. Yeah, absolutely. I think what helps is if not only you enjoy the activity or whatever subject you're filming or recording or whatever, but also enjoy the creative process. Like you said, that's what makes it rewarding. There's a few different things there. You get to enjoy the activity, you get to enjoy creating, and then you get to enjoy the record of it afterwards. And so if you can appreciate all 3 of those things, you'll have fun eventually, and it'll be worthwhile. But yeah, as you said, it can be a struggle, and it can be frustrating at times to try to get the shot that you either want or you need, and either the weather's making it hard or other circumstances. It can be difficult.
If you could get your dog to be the camera woman, your dog that would be the thing. You'd have it made then. Right.
It would be great. Yeah. Thankfully, I can say, and my dog is sitting right next to me. She is often my co-host when Riley's not there, and she's a YouTube star. I think people like her more than they like us. So.
Well, and
I'm okay with that.
And with having a dog, there's a sense of they're more keen on things that you may not be on a safety standpoint, animals intrude or something like that, than you would be without it.
That's a really good point. I think when she's calm, which is most times, she's a pretty calm dog, but okay, we're all right, but if she's hearing things, I will pay attention. Yeah. That's for sure.
Well, Jack, we greatly appreciate the time that you've offered Holly and myself and all of our listeners. How can we find you on the internet? What's the best way to get a hold of you and view your channel?
Yeah, so like you guys said, the YouTube channel is just called Tiny Cabin Life. So if you search that on YouTube, you will find us. And yeah, honestly, if you're looking for just some relaxing, fun videos in our quirky little cabins, and you like, I don't know, almost like family friendly stuff, you will certainly enjoy it. And with the birth of our daughter coming in the next few weeks, we're really excited to include her in that as well. And so you can find us that way. I'm on Instagram as well. It's Jack F as in Frank Stewart. But honestly, the main stuff is YouTube, Tiny Cabin Life, and yeah, you'll hopefully enjoy our videos.
Well, absolutely, Jack. We thank you for your time and the information you've shared with us.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Well, that will do it for us for the program, Holly. We covered some information, a lot of information. Had a great conversation with Jack from A Tiny Cabin Life. Had a lot of fun with him on the program.
Yeah, that was fun.
And we hope we inspired you, enlightened you, educated you, shared with you some things that maybe you were not aware of. And we will, if you're following the program, every other Thursday we will come out with a new program. Our guest next program will be Tony from Random Adventures 2.0, and we'll cover some other camping and outdoor activities on the program. So until next time, for
Holly Baird,
I'm Joey Baird, and we will see you at the campsite.